Good evening, everybody, or good evening from Kansas. This is Laura Donnelly from Dancing with Ease, Body Brain Balance, here this evening with The Healing Path. And my special guest today is Talya. And I'm going to have to, I'm going to have her say her name. I think it's Sahler, but my bad, because I know her from Facebook first. And when you look in the description, it says that she goes by Talya Bar on Facebook, so you don't get confused and you can find her. Don't get confused like me. But anyway, we have known each other for a couple of years on Facebook. We met on Facebook through a group I worked with, started with my friend Imogen. We're going for caregivers. And Talya joined the group and we got to know each other. She was going through school and she used a lot of the Alexander technique work that Imogen and I do to take care of herself while she was finishing school and taking care of her family that she had. And so over time, we just got to know each other better, stayed in touch. And she does a lot of very important work helping people. She got her degree in social work and counseling. So she helps people through that area. And part of our conversations that we talk about, she and I, are how the healing that we do starts with ourselves. And from that place, we are able to share, whether it's calmness, whether it's information, a balanced perspective about something. So all healing starts in and of ourselves and ripples out there. Hi, Sharon. Great to see you. So I'll bring Talya on so she can tell me how to say her real last name, which will be really fun. And then we'll just talk a little bit about spirituality and religion and how these things can support us, support our well-being, our health, and our happiness. So was that just like too totally weird? I forgot I didn't know how to say your whole name.
No, totally fine. My chosen name is Bar, so you said that pretty well. Um, and my married name was Sahler, with a long ah sound. Um, for a while there, I was toying with actually going through the hardship of changing it legally to Bar, um, but too much of a hassle. I decided to just keep it like that. So you're good.
I understand that one. I never changed my name the first time I got married because it was too much of a hassle even then. And
Totally.
so, well, I'm so glad you could be here today and share a little bit about your healing journey, your life, how your spirituality and religion supports you, and how you use that in the work that you do with other people.
Sure, and I'm so grateful that you're giving me this opportunity because I got so much from you and from our friendship, and I'm so happy to pay it forward.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm really glad.
Totally. Um, so I came by this story, and it's not exactly on topic, but I thought that this whole new group that you started, the Healing Path, um, coincided with COVID and people just really having a hard time um, dealing with it and finding ways to overcome the hardship, the sadness that came. A lot of people lost people or thought they're going to lose people. Um, so I thought this story was funny but telling. Is that okay if I share that story?
Sure.
This great mystic had a revelation that there was going to be a pandemic in the world, and he went to see the angel of death and asked him, how many people are are we going to lose? And the angel of death said, we're going to lose 5,000 people. And this mystic went home and did the best he can to support the community, to help them, to heal them, to support them in a hard time. And then there were 15,000 people lost. So this mystic was very upset, very confused, and went to see the angel of death and said to the angel of death, you said 5,000. How did we end up losing 15,000? And the angel of death said 5,000 were lost because of the pandemic, and 10,000 were lost because of the fear. And when I saw that, I thought to myself, um, it's a little bit of like a macabre humor, right? Like it's a black humor. Uh, but I also thought that it's meaningful, right? Because here we are living with this shadow, and with uh, so many changes to everything that we know. I think I met somebody this week, and we were talking about the work that I do, and the person was asking me, like, how do you take care of yourself? Um, Working with a lot of trauma, a lot of trauma survivors, and really hard, sad stories. And I said, oh, I have a whole slew of self care things that I like to do. And of course, Laura is one of them. But now I have to reinvent all these things that I have, because a lot of them are not available now, or maybe never going to be available again, right? And so we have to like rethink it and revisit new ideas, um, and so I think that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to um, have all these amazing people that you're having on your show, that come up with just novel, amazing ways of healing.
Well, and looking at the world, sort of what you said, was from a different perspective. If having a spa day was a really big part of your taking care of yourself, how can you do that in your own home?
Right.
You know, can you get the Epsom salts or some nice bath salts or bubbles or something? Can you recreate not the experience of going away and doing that, but the result of the experience? Can you get the result of the experience from a different way? And I think one of the things that helps me is to read inspiring work, um, contemplative work, um, you know, Psalms. I think we traded a couple of Psalms early on that were, I mean, okay, this is scary for us, but this is not the first time humans have been through this.
Right.
And it's kind of important to remember that. I mean, the race has survived. So I might say to myself, well, I don't know if I'm going to survive. But that is the human condition. And I think for me, one of the important things about a belief system, a spiritual belief system, a religious belief system, is a structure that lets me know that although I have an important place in the universe, it's not the only place in the universe. And it's not the most important place in the universe. That I'm part of a whole collective of people. And I also think that part of the importance of a belief system is that it's that the prayers and the activities that you do are to raise your consciousness, not to create more fear. They're designed to comfort you in a way. So
Right.
you have a sort of interesting history
Hmm.
that you shared, that you were raised secular. I think a lot of people in any religion, they don't necessarily think about it in American Christianity so much as being a secular Christian. They don't really talk about, people don't really talk about that. But I would say that can be the case for people, that they don't have a deep sustaining practice. And I think that you can have a deep and sustaining practice in any religion, it and that it's your choice to create that personal practice.
Right. So it kind of brings you to trying to define um, religion. What is religion? Um, and maybe because a lot of people are not religious, but they're spiritual, right? And so trying to pinpoint something that's basically esoteric, right? Like religion and spirituality. And then you want to say, what's the difference between them? How is religion different than spirituality? And I think that the most common way of um, defining it, and I'm all for everybody making their own definition around it, right? Is that religion is more like order activities, right? The activities are preordained and universal, and spirituality is more a way of the person itself kind of defining what are the activities that are associated with transcendence. Um, and I think that each one is unique in its own way. And I'm not sure, there's a whole discussion about whether religions are always spiritual. I don't know. Do you know the answer to that?
Words, right? Words. And I think a lot of times religions grew because people had an experience that they really didn't have words for. And so order to try and share the experience they had, they started to say certain words and things. Then it grew into a kind of a codified practice. I had never really thought about that, religion and spirituality. And I bet, since you've just been through school, that there's quite a big discussion about this. And I think part of the job, okay, I think part of the thing that's very hard for humans is, well, I think about when I grew up, and I have a church family, as a larger, more extended family than my uh, okay, so I have my nuclear family, my parents and everything. Then I have my kind of, oh, Betty is here, Betty Av, your friend.
Yeah,
Um,
she's my friend. Hi, Betty.
then there's my extended family, my grandparents, my cousins, my aunts, and my uncles. And then there was this other larger family that had an interest in my learning, my growth, my well-being, and my health and happiness. And and so then through the church I belong to, there was a set of teachings that were supposed to give you grounding, a way to deal, what is it, an ideology or a theory to deal with the randomness and the strangeness of life on earth and the difficulties of being a human. I mean, we lose people we care about from the beginning.
Right.
We make a commitment to something that I think the commitment, like to be married for your entire life, I think that started before people lived so long. Before people changed so much, But these were basically, I think, some commonalities in most religions are guidelines for how to treat each other in the best way possible. In terms of, and I don't think, and I tell people this all the time, we as a race are progressing in terms of technology. We make more things. We make tiny little transistors. We can talk on the internet like this all over the world, which is wonderful and fun. In terms of the development of the human, all the same problems. Fear, anger, jealousy, envy, need somebody to say, you need to counter this with love. You need to counter this with patience. You need grace in your life. You need forgiveness of some kind to keep going, because sometimes the road is heavy and hard. Oh, Betty said, we seem like we're kind of going backwards. It does seem a little bit like that right now, I admit, Betty. It does seem a little bit backwards. But at the same time, I think that humans have the capacity to change direction. And I think that you also called your talk, Talya, let go. Okay, now you have to explain this to me. I know you took the zero. Do you love this?
Not the zero. No, not the zero.
Took the O.
Right.
Out, right? Because this is important in your religion.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit what that's about?
Sure. So we are very careful about writing God's name, because then you can't erase it. Because God's name is holy, and so we're always very careful to make a change somehow, so then it's not the complete name of God. So that I'm very careful with that, and throughout, college, my professors have been like, "You're misspelling this, that, or the other," and I had to explain, "No, I'm not. I'm doing it purposefully." So that's what it was. Yes. And I just wanted to add to what you were saying, that um, the unique thing about it is that people are like that. All people are like, right? Um, and I remember that in some of my work with domestic violence, one of the first thing that we learned, and that was surprising when you see it, because you know it, but then when you see it, it has a different impact, was that domestic violence hits all different kind of populations. And so where you would think that, oh, people that have domestic violence are people that are poor, or people that um, are, live in cramped housing. No, a lot of our clients that suffered from severe domestic violence were very wealthy, were professionals, lawyers, teachers. Um, I even had a psychologist, and so behaviors are not specific to certain type of people. Universal. Everybody gets scared. Everybody are mean sometimes, are kind sometimes, and so I think that part of the human condition is that we are all a mixture of all these parts of us, and really when you add spirituality and religion, it's a wish to transcend it. It's a wish to live in a way that is kind of like lifting us above some of the things that we don't want to be and we could be. Um, and I think that that's another piece in the difference between religion and spirituality, that a lot of times spirituality kind of leaves it to your definition, um, and it's attractive to a lot of people, right? But then we see that in history, we have people that prided themselves for being um, kind or considerate or virtuous in some way or another. But they also allowed themselves to murder or torture others. And it was because, in their definition, those others didn't fit into what they considered people that were worth um, being kind to. And I think even today, unfortunately, in the local, uh, the very close to present situation that we're having, where people politically feel very, very different about everything, and they may be um, protesting equality in one hand, and at the same time, really don't feel that certain people deserve equality because they're horrible people in their definition, right? And so I, I, I I think an example that comes to mind is that I was in school during the previous election, and quite a few of the students that felt very upset by the outcome of the election, but were amazing people, and volunteered and helped others and were very civic minded, but they felt like, I'm never going to talk to my mother-in-law again. I'm not going to bring my kids to see her ever again because she voted for Trump, and that was okay in their um, in their values. Where I think when you have religion, and it's much more structured, right? And you will have things that say you can't steal, and that's it. You can't steal from nobody. Even if you think that that person stole from you, you still are not allowed to steal from them. Even if you think that that person is has too much money and it's not good for them, and you're doing them a favor by taking some of that money away from them, you're still not allowed to do that, right? Um, And I think, like you mentioned before, that I grew up secular and then I became religious afterwards. And I remember that I liked very much the story of Robin Hood, right? Um, it was a story that I loved, that I saw plays. And then when I read it as a religious person, I thought to myself, not a saint, you know. Okay, he was stealing from the rich to give to the poor, but it doesn't make it right for him to steal, right? So just put it out there.
No, you're bringing up some things which I think are some of the reasons people struggle with religion, and I think there's some of the things that produce a deep and internal kind of growth. And and there's all these dichotomies in the world, and Robin Hood is a good one. You know, we kind of grew up thinking he was a good guy.
Still love him. I still love the story.
And but what is the boundary? And I think that that's a lot of the importance of religion is to really make you question your desires, the things you want, the things you need, and the thing that it is right to do. Often the right thing to do is really not the easiest thing to do. So what Betty says, it's easier to live in a free-for-all without any consequences. But there are consequences. You might imagine that there aren't any consequences. But I think that I think that some of the things that people end up doing kind of obsessively happen because they have an emptiness inside that they're trying to fill with something else. That maybe it's not fillable, but quiet meditation, contemplation, prayer. My friend Linda Mary Montano spent some time as in a monastery. What do they call that? Where the women go in and they're nuns. They go into another thing. Boy, I'm having a great day with words.
Convent?
Convent, yes, convent. Thank you. Excellent. But the part of the quiet contemplation is to deal with these things, and these stories are in the Bible too. These very, very difficult decisions,
Mm-hmm.
and how do you turn over and trust? And maybe a lot of the fear in this virus is that people don't trust that it will turn out okay, that it will, that and there's these things that people say to you, when one door shuts, a window opens or something, and I have to tell you that when I'm going through something and the doors are slamming shut and somebody tells me that little sentence, I want it to be very unnice and drop kick them to the moon. Even though I know it's true. I have experienced it in my life over and over, that there is, for me in my life, a larger guiding principle. There is an inner calm and peace and knowing. Those are things I attribute to God. That even when I'm confused and I don't understand why this is happening, if I just keep being kind and I keep paying attention and I come back to actually asking for forgiveness is a big one. Then the space opens up for something to happen. And I think that we've kind of touched on this is that the human condition is the human condition. And I really do not think people have changed from the caveman time to today.
I'm with you.
The physical urges, the desire for that guy's, hairy mammoth leg, or what, woolly mammoth, sorry. This guy has the woolly mammoth leg, and I'm stuck with the trunk, and I don't want the trunk, I want the leg. I mean, this we just have these things. And if we can admit that, because I think that denying that we have these things is a big, big problem. Oh, yes, I like that. In all evil, goodness will eventually prevail. Betty, awesome. And Carol is here.
She is brilliant.
See, then there's these thoughts like, well, and there is the truth too, that a lot of times when people do harm, it is because they have had harm done to them. And it has broken something in them. But the thing I know is that healing can happen at any time, and that the healing is not anything you can force. My mom was scared of the dark, and she was just scared, she told me. And when she was little, her dad put those stars that glow in the dark on her ceiling, so that when the lights went out, there would be little glowing dark stars in it, because she said, like, until she was 5, she couldn't sleep in a room with her big sister. She could only sleep, she's still sleeping in a little crib by her parents' bed, because she just would cry and cry. She was terrified. She didn't know why. Then she did all this stuff in her life. She went to New York, and she danced, and she toured, and she went to Chicago, and I'm like, how did you do that? She said, I just made myself do it. She said, I just made myself do it. But then she got married, and they moved to this little town in Kansas where I was born. And my dad used to work late. And so she said she would be so frightened. She would, so 4-story house, basement, one level, and an attic. She would turn all the lights on in the house, sit in the kitchen with all the doors shut, with all the lights on in the house, waiting for him to come home. And then he died, my dad, by accident, fell, hit his head, died. And there she is, stuck with 2 children. And she said that she just prayed that this fear would be lifted off of her so that she could take care of us. Now, she wouldn't do it for herself. But she said, because I did ask her when I was older, when I was a teenager, I said, how did you do all this if you were so frightened? She said, the fear went away. She said, the only thing I can say is that it was taken away from me so that I could do what I needed to do. And I think that the world is mysterious. And I think that some things about religions explain the mysteries, and some of them just say, and this is a mystery.
That's true. That is true. Although I can tell you that, so the whole time I was in college, academia does not like religion. And so a lot of my professors' attitude was religion is divisive. It's what makes us different from other people, what keeps us apart from other people. And then I took this phenomenal course in positive psychology. I loved that course from the get-go. I love the professor. He very much was. He was similar to me in a very fundamental way, and that is he was curious. he went into life with a curiosity. So no matter what you say, it's not offensive to me because I'm curious as to why are you saying that and what are you thinking, right? Um, and the interesting thing about positive psychology is a lot of work was done starting, I think, in the 90s, um, really researching how important religion is in the well-being of a person, right? So positive psychology is basically looking into what are the things that enhance a person's well-being? What makes life good? What makes a person happy, involved in life? And so religion is, I wouldn't say the biggest component of the research, but it definitely has a nice, sizable piece in there. Um, and what they discovered was that religious people um, did well in a lot of things. And one of them was overcoming hardship, right? And I think your story with your mom praying that the fear will go away and then succeeding, it just went away, right? Um, Fits into that idea that when a person is connected to a spiritual conduct, um, it will help that person overcome, and not only overcome hardship, but grow from the hardship, right? So find meaning into what happened in a way that is going to make them grow as a person. It's going to make them become a better person. Um, is it okay to tell another one of my favorite stories?
Yes, I love stories. Well, no, then
I
this is
teach
part.
stories.
But here's what this is part of what I think is missing in our current culture is that there are teaching stories in all religions,
Hmm.
and it's a story, and you want to know what's happening, but there is an important message about how to be embedded in the story.
Yes,
And I think people learn that way really well. And I also think that it is I think it's powerful because it's very different than saying you should do this, you know.
right. And it's part of narrative uh, therapy, right? What is narrative therapy? Is that we all have a story in our head, and sometimes the story is not helpful to us, right? Like the way that we understand what's happening to us, or who we are, or who is the other person, or experiences that we're having. It's in the story, right? And we can always rewrite the story. We rewrite the story might be much more palatable, and we might actually like ourselves at the end of the story, or our spouse, or our children, or our mother, because the story will be different, right? But this story is actually one of my favorites. There is, so I'm Orthodox Jewish, Hasidic Jewish, and in our culture, there is a famous rabbi called the Baal Shem Tov, the master of the good name, uh, is the way he's referred to. And there are hundreds of stories about this rabbi. And we say, are all the stories true? Is a common question around it, because it's impossible that all these things happen to one person in one lifetime. And we say, if you don't believe in any of the stories, you are not a believer. If you believe in all the stories, you're a fool. So you get to choose what you want to be.
Oh, that's good.
But this story is about an innkeeper. We're going back to Eastern Europe, I think near Poland. And this innkeeper was renting a small parcel of land um, from from the Lord that had all the land, and he made a little inn in there. And the Lord would come in and check him out and would say, "How you doing?" And he would always say, thank God I'm well." The Lord would say, "Why are you saying thank God? Thank me. I'm the one that's leasing you this property. You owe me everything. Why are you saying thank God? Say thank my master." And this innkeeper smiled shyly and said, "Yes, I thank you, but thank God. Thank God that you're nice to me." And the Lord, he was so angry. You know what? You have no gratitude. You don't understand life. Let's see how grateful you're going to be. I'm closing down your inn. You close down the inn. Now, this poor innkeeper has no livelihood. He has a wife and a dozen children, and there's nothing. And the Lord drives around in his carriage and he passes by his house and he's laughing. Let that innkeeper learn a lesson who he should say thank you to. Thank God. And the holiday of Passover is fast approaching, and they don't have anything for the holiday. This Lord had a pet monkey, and he loved that monkey. That was like his it was like a child to him. And he would take the monkey with him wherever he would go. And one day, um, the this Lord finds his monkey dead on the floor, and he's devastated. That his monkey's gone, and then he gets an idea how he can make something terrible into something good. And he thinks to himself, "I'm going to go to that innkeeper. I'm going to take my monkey and throw it through his window, and let's see how he's going to thank God when he has a dead monkey on his floor." And so he takes his carriage, he drives by the innkeeper's house, takes his monkey and throws it through the window. Really horrific. The innkeeper is sitting there. His window was just broken. He's already, you know, um, not in a good state because he's worried about the holiday. He doesn't have any food in the house. Now he has a dead monkey on the floor also. But when the dead monkey fell into the room, um, gold coins, were pouring out of his stomach. What actually happened? That the Lord um, would take the gold coins that he had. He would get people would come and pay him rent, would give him the gold coins, and he would check it by biting into it with his teeth, making sure that it's gold. And that was his practice. Of course, now COVID culture, we are like horrified to think of him taking these coins. But in that time, it was the practice, and that's what he did. So the monkey, being a monkey, saw what his master was doing, so he also did it. But he actually swallowed the coins, and he swallowed the coins, and that's why he died. It was not exactly monkey food, and now this innkeeper has a lot of gold all over his floor. So he takes the monkey, he buries the monkey, takes the gold, and he goes and he buys everything that they need for the holiday, and more than ever, because he has so much money, so happy. He thanks God. Thank you, God, so much for taking care of me in this really difficult situation. And the Lord, he's driving by in his wagon, and he's like, let me go see that innkeeper on Passover. Let's see how he's doing. Comes by the house and sees candles are burning. The whole house is lit up beautifully. The wife is wearing a new dress. The kids are wearing shoes, clothes. The table is set so beautifully. All this food. He says to the innkeeper, where did you get the money? God helped me. Thank God. What happened? He said, I don't know. I found a dead monkey. Somebody threw him through the window, and his stomach was full of gold coins. And so that's that um, patience that you often see with religious people, with spiritual masters, right? Where calamities happen, tragedies happen, because it is part of life, right? Unfortunately, sickness, death, um, misery is woven into the beauty of life, and we all experience it. Some more so than others, but like I think you mentioned before, you can either be broken by it, or it can actually lift you up. And so many people that we know in our culture, that terrible things happen to them, and from that they started a new organization of charity or support, or um, and that's it was that terrible thing that happened to them that created something that gives um, support and to a lot of people that were suffering before, or wisdom. And I think of Viktor Frankl, who is one of my favorite authors, and his research and what he gives to psychology is invaluable, right? In treatment of people with a lot of suffering, with a lot of trauma. He's a man that went through the Holocaust. And what he discovered is that when a person has meaning, you can even go through the Holocaust and still have a life on the other side. And I think that in now with COVID and what's going on, because it is tragic, right? I have friends that lost young husbands, or wives, kids. Um, People lost their jobs. Some people lost their homes. Um, you know, we can't take away the severity of how much this shook the world and caused so much hardship to people. But we can say that with um, faith, with practice, reaching into our real self that is never affected by anything, we can actually grow from it, and we can come up and think of ways of doing incredible things. And it's already happening, right? Um, I mean, even something so simple like at the beginning of COVID, where you had so many performers do performance online free, just to make people happy, right? You would never think that a ticket to go and see this singer or this actor would be so expensive. Most people couldn't go, And now it was available to everybody, right? And many more things. People were giving food for free. People were um, helping make gardens and all sorts of things. And there's always that possibility of growth, of super kindness, that is hidden inside of tragedies.
I think you're right. I think it's funny too. I've been thinking as we were talking of Viktor Frankl. It's just funny. But let's see. You gave me links, and I put them in the description of two articles that you think are interesting and important along these lines. So you can click the links and read the articles. I have Talya's Facebook page, so you can connect with her if you want. And I encourage you to. She is also in the Healing Path. And if you aren't in there yet and you would like to be in there, please just write in the comments, me, and I'll invite you. I'll invite you to the path. It's a private group so that if you had thoughts that you wanted to share or talk about that were more personal, because healing is personal. And sometimes you don't want it all over Facebook, what you're doing. Then I think this is a good thing. We'll put Betty's comment up here, see if I can do this with my technology. We always have to believe that there are more good people than evil or bad ones. And I mean, I have said this my whole life is, why aren't there more good news shows? And people say bad news sells. And I'm like, why? And recently on Facebook, there'd be some pretty, something nice, something very, some beautiful animal or something. And that people say, pass this around. We need more positive images. And I think that that's one of the things is that I learned in my religious upbringing is I have a choice. I always have a choice. I can want a piece of candy and I can steal the candy, which I know is wrong. Or I can wait until I save the money and I can go back and buy the candy. These are my choices. And to also know we have the choice to focus on the evil in the world, or we have the choice to focus on the good. And one of the things I really, really believe is that what we focus on grows. And I got another story about my mom. She's so funny. I love my mom. She was a great person. But she used to worry. She was a worrier. It was her nature. And I'm the kind of child that triggers everything for a worrier. Fearless. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to climb this tree. She's like, And so one day I just said to her, I said, Mom, worrying is a lot like praying for what you don't want to have happen. She goes, no, I'm not doing that. And I said, well, aren't you over and over in your mind going over all the bad things that might happen to me that you're afraid are going to happen to me? Because I said, you surely tell me them a lot. Well, this could go wrong and that could go wrong. And this is a nice idea, but these are the things that could go wrong with it. And I'm like, I said, what if you just, when you felt that, took the energy of that fear and prayed that the best possible outcome would occur for me? And the whole rest of her life, probably about 10 or 12 years, she did not tell me of a worry she had for me. And that was a blessing to me. But I finally found the words, and I really do believe that if we focus our minds on good and positive things and we follow a teaching that helps us to be a better, kinder, more whole person, that this will have a ripple in the world, that it will affect other people. They will be inspired by the choices we make. Have a grateful day. Yeah, Mary does a gratefulness She does a gratitude process, which I think being grateful every day is like a prayer of thanksgiving.
Yes.
And these are in the world. It's very easy to get caught up in the evil because the evil seems, it's like in our physical body. Oh, this is too funny, Talia. We're going to run on a long time, but who cares?
Yeah.
Well, in our physical body, when we have pain,
It happen every time we talk, Laura.
I think it does. I mean, we got on the phone one day and we just kept going and going. But like if we have pain in our body, the pain is yelling, and the easiness and the healing in our body is whispering. And so we have to make the deliberate choice not to listen to the pain and to hear the whisper. And as we do that, eventually the pain goes down and the whispering comes up, because we're paying more attention to the ease in our system, the releasing of tension, and eventually the pain softens. I think evil, just while we were talking, came into my head that the evil in the world is exactly like this. And that if we focus on the evil in the world, we are giving our energy to the evil and helping it grow. And it's not that we deny that it exists, because it does exist. But instead, when you see something that's evil, figure out a practice to shift it. You know, if you see somebody throwing rocks at an animal, now, when I grew up, people would tell you not to do that. They would,
I just wanted to say that. Can I interrupt for a second?
yeah, do right
I
ahead.
just wanted to say that, like, in Hinduism, right? We say that a person that you really don't like, that you would call evil, right? We call him my teacher, right? Because it's not just, I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to let it in my sphere because this person is evil, but rather, what is this person there to teach me? What can I learn from having that person in my life, right? And there's always something. It's not a coincidence that that person came into your world, that that person spoke to you, that you ended up taking a job with that person being your boss, that you were born to that person. It's not a coincidence. There is something that that person is there to give you, and you just have to patiently search for it.
Yes, I agree. It's the same thing in your body. If your body has a painful thing, it's trying to tell you something.
Right.
You know, you overdid this, you lifted up something that was too heavy. Stop lifting up heavy things on that one arm. Whatever it's telling you. But sometimes it's hard to hear the message. And so then I think that the story, like the story that you told, gives you information about interpreting your own story so that you can heal and let your real self shine through. So
I
I
know
will.
we're almost out of time. I thought of a few things that people can do
Uh-huh.
um, to bring in spirituality in their life. Should take a minute. Is that okay if I share that?
Perfect.
Okay. I thought it was a good way to bring it all home.
Yes.
To basically engage in building spirituality, because not everybody necessarily wants to practice religion or are interested in a particular religion, right? But you can always bring in some spiritual practice into your life. So here are my suggestions. Putting 5 minutes a day to relax and think about purpose in life and what is your part in it. Why are we here? We're here for a reason, right? We're all here for a reason. So you can think of it more globally and then try to think, okay, what can I add to that? Think for 5 minutes, what are the things that you can do to improve the world and your community? What can you do? Just a small person, but one small deed. How do you say that, Laura? You have a way of saying it beautifully. A little bit of ease.
As I say, ease anywhere is ease everywhere.
Yes, that's right. And so I take it a step further. You know, a good deed, small good deed somewhere is good everywhere. Um, attend religious services, um, or read a spiritual or religious text. Um, explore your religion. Sometimes people just are born into a religion and they don't really know much about it. Look into it. Spend a few minutes meditating or praying in a day and read some affirmation or optimistic quotes. Say good things, right? Connect to goods. And our spiritual leader said, engage in random acts of goodness and kindness. Don't think it out too much. Just be random. It's a good thing to do. This person came in front of you. Just to do something nice. I think I like to go to a supermarket here, Aldi's, and you have to put in a quarter to get a cart. And then if you want your quarter back, you have to put the cart back and you get your quarter. And I never put my cart back. Not because I'm lazy, but because I feel like somebody else is going to come is going to just have the cart waiting for them and, not have to put the quarter into the thing. And I can let go of my quarter. So it's random and it's easy. And there's so many such opportunities. Smiling at another person. A long time ago, I took upon myself that when somebody asks me, how are you? I never say fine. I always say great, wonderful, fabulous, fantastic, or something to that. And it never fails to bring a smile with the other person and often a comment of, yeah, you know. So random acts of goodness and kindness.
That's a beautiful way to finish. So thanks everybody for watching and your comments. We have a whole lot of them. Donita says to be nice to everyone always. And Mary said that she had a lifetime of lessons in her family of origin. And many times what we go through is not necessarily easy, but when we come to the other side, we have gifts that we can share with other people. So Talya,
Amen to that.
this was just wonderful to chat with you. And thanks everybody for your comments and for speaking in here and sharing. And this will be in the Healing Path. If you would like to join, just type me in the comments and I will send you an invitation. Talya's in there. You can chat with her in there and ask her questions, or you can friend her on Facebook. And I will see you tomorrow for, oh my heavens, day 131 of
Oh
Strange
my goodness.
Times. I know. Can you believe it? Thank you, Donita, for watching.
Thank you so much, Laura. Thank
You.
you for the opportunity
It was wonderful to
and
see
for
you.
the friendship.
Yes. Take care, you guys.